Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Lee McCrafton Jr., aka Zorvalchan, Less Than Guru, and today I would like to go over, or re-go over, I guess it would be, character points and break down how they can be used by everybody and specifically my groupings of my occupations before I get into the rogue occupations. Um, so I have a whole video dedicated to combat points and why I like them and why I use them. And one of the things that happened is I was thinking about magic items and how I personally like when player characters or players can have their characters make magic items. So because of that, a few things that I was thinking about kind of fit the that point system, not an experience point system, but a character point system. So I changed combat points into character points. They can do everything that the combat points could do, but that's also the resource that clergy and my academics, which are my studious scholarly magic, what they can use to make magic items. And then another thing that I added to it was an ability for each category to increase one of three of the six attributes that I use in my game. I've removed physical beauty and I remove speed. I have a video on why I did that as well. But I think that it is cool when you can increase it, but I didn't want to do it through skills like in other Palladium games, like Palladium Second Edition or Rifts, etc. I didn't want it just to be physical skills through getting physical skills, getting you higher physical attributes. So here is a thing that I wrote up in my PDF of character points, what they can be used for. So if we look at this, character points, you gain them at 5 plus your level at your level. So when you make a character at level 1, you have 5 plus your level. So that's 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 character points. You can spend them in any way you want as a player. It's something that I don't dictate as a game master. I just give the characters, the players, the option, and then they can use their own judgment call. And do I use this to increase an ability? Do I save them up to increase an attribute or a magic item, or do I spend them in combat when they could be needed? So the first thing that they can do is they can use it to add to a d20 strike roll. So you roll your d20, and in my game, I do a narrative type of you miss, you hit, or you're not quite sure if it's within 1 or 2 points. And if a character point, if that 1d6 does not have any chance of working, I just flat out tell them there's no sense to spend it. I don't want people just wasting resources. Now, if they need a 5 or a 6, I will tell them it's highly unlikely, but it's possible. It's possible, but not probable. And then they can take it as a let's try this or not. So that's the first way that a character point can be spent. The second is that they can increase their saving throw the same way. They roll a d20. If they don't succeed, then I will allow them to roll a character point. And again, I'll tell them if it's going to be a waste, I'll just say sorry, you're just way too low. That 1d6 is not going to do anything. The other thing is I do not allow it to work with parrying and dodges. Instead, if you are going to get hit, then you can use it to reduce damage by a d6, which isn't a lot if you have against a foe with a big physical strength and a big weapon, etc. But it has on more than one occasion kept a character from dying or keeping a character from falling unconscious. So I have seen that be put to great use as an option. And then D is special based on the occupation, and I'll go over that. I had already did my men of arms, but I'm do rogues next, and I want to do this for all so I can just not have to repeat it each time. So, what are the special things that the different grouping of occupations? So, my occupation group is men of arms, rogues, entertainers, academics, intuits, clergy, and optional. So the men of arms, what they can do is they can spend character points to increase their physical strength, their physical prowess, and physical endurance. So the three physical skills, because that's what a man of arms, a warrior, a fighter will be able to do in their basic training for their occupation. And it costs the same amount of character points as getting to the next highest attribute number. So if they have a 10 in an attribute and they want to get to an 11, it's 11 points. You start off with 6, so you're going to have to save character points over multiple levels. Um, and that's as intended. But if you have something that you've rolled low, like a 3 or a 5, then you can immediately boost it by a point. So that is what men of arms can do. Also, instead of rolling a d6 for that to strike bonus if they spend, they get to use a d8. So a higher chance or a possibility of having a larger bonus to that strike. So on rogues up here, what they get to advance in attributes is PP, physical prowess, physical endurance, or mental affinity. So not quite the strength, but instead that mental affinity, that charisma, that way to uh, weasel their way into things as a rogue. So I felt that that was appropriate. And then instead of reducing damage by a d6, if they spend a character point, they get to reduce it by a d8. So that is rogues. Entertainers can increase physical strength, physical prowess, or mental affinity, and they can also their other thing that their special thing that they can do with character points is they can increase a skill percent by 1 point per character point. And what I mean by that is, again, if you want to increase that skill by 1 point, 1 percentage point, 1 character point. If you want to increase it by 2, you buy the first one at 1 point, you buy the second one at 2 points, third one at 3 points. But you can do it on any percentage skill. So that is a way that the entertainers can learn skill. They can learn more skills normally, and then this gives them a higher chance at succeeding at those skills. So the academics, those again are my scholarly mages, and they can use the character points to increase IQ, ME, or MA, so the mental attributes. And the other thing is they're one of the ones that can use character points to make magic items. And when we finally get to the magic items creation rules, then we'll see how they use those points. Intuits are my category of psychic characters using ISP, my mystic equivalent, which I call the adept, beastmasters, anything that their abilities is a natural inherent ability. That's my grouping that I call intuits. The healer is also another one that I have as an intuit. And what they can increase is physical prowess, mental endurance, or mental affinity. And then when they do the saving throw, instead of rolling a d6, they get to use a d8. And then lastly, the clergy, they can raise physical endurance, IQ, or MA. And they can also use their character points to make divine items. So like I allow my scholars, my academics to make magic items. I allow clergy to make divine items. That's something that also I like. If you're a wizard and you're making a cool staff that can shoot fireballs, if you're a clergy, you should be able to make some clerical divine item that represents you and your connection to your deity. So those are what they can. The optional, that's where I have like my commoner, my merchant, my naturalist. The naturalist is kind of based off of in the Innsloth jungle, there was a nomadic tribesman, I believe. I've changed it a bit to be the naturalist and the noble. I've removed squire, like I showed in my squire video, and made them actual men of arms. But for the optionals, what they can do is they can optional occupations can spend character points once per highest optional occupation level to increase an attribute by 1 point by spending character points. So every level that they level up, they can, for their optional occupation level, they can increase an attribute, any attribute. And that's because the optionals are usually for the people that have rolled really bad on their characters. And that's a way to them to, at some point, transition over to a normal occupation. So that is how my character points work. And so far, since I've done that slight change, everybody's been happy with the results because I didn't take anything away. I added a few options, and then they really have to think, am I going to spend this character point, or I'm going to use it to increase an attribute, or one of my players is interested in magic items, or a couple of them actually are interested in magic items. So each level I set aside a few of these character points so that I can eventually make a few cool magic items. So having said that, next time we will dive into rogues. And until next time, I will catch you later.